this is quite literally the most consistent you're ever going to see me with the series. Was I a week late to the previous video? Potentially. But this is some top echelon dedication. I have drilled this out, the recording, the prep in such a quick time, and I'm going to get this out because I'll go to Italy on Wednesday. So this will be posted prior to that. And then when I get back on the weekend, I will react and do this whole bollocks for the rest of the midweek games while it's FA Cup season. Anyway, these are a recap of the player podium rules. If you are new around here or you have forgotten, up to 3 players per team awarded points based on individual performance, with the best player receiving 3 points, second best receiving 2 points, and third best receiving 1 point. If a team has less than 3 outstanding players, their best performing player may receive less than 3 points, which you're going to see fairly quickly into this video. Players accumulate points each game we can place onto the leaderboard, and every week one player is awarded Player of the Week. Here are our points scorers from last week. Obviously, it's a double game week for Arsenal and Wolves, so they have been taken into account. Across the top, as per usual, actually a decent amount of 3 pointers. Well, I say a decent amount of 3 pointers. A fair few 3 pointers across the board there. If I scroll all the way across, Haaland pretty comfortably on his own at the top. By the looks of it, probably going to go on to win. I don't know what award I'm going to give for the player with the most points. I'll work it out towards the end of the season, I'll be honest. And you can see the players starting to slot in behind, with like your Semenyo at Bournemouth. He's like, just breaking the 20-point mark, which is a very good season, I believe. I think is what I worked out so far. Up to about here is your players that have had pretty cracking seasons. And down, if I scroll down, Gyökeres is a reminder. I know it was Arsenal's 28th game, but it was the 27th game week, and he won Player of the Week for that particular adventure. Yes, thank you very much for watching, boys. Have a good one, and I'll see you later. I don't know. It was, if I wasn't a Villa fan or a Wolves fan, I would say so little about this game because there was so little that really happened from what I saw. This was a game that I wasn't actually able to catch. I was working at the time, so I didn't get to watch the whole game. But from what I heard, I didn't miss anything. Uh, the highlights that I saw from various forms of consumerism were just literally highlights I picked up off the big screen at work. If I can get the gist of a game from catching glimpses of a telly while pouring pints, that kind of says a lot about the game. In previous encounters, we have been hammering away at the door, like in the Everton, Brentford, and Leeds. The last few home games in particular stand out. We were all over the teams at points, and we were knocking away at the door. We just couldn't get it over the line. And maybe on another day we would have scored the goal, got a little bit of luck come our way, but it didn't happen in that occasion. This game was flat. It's a scary kind of realization that I kind of had through the process of making this video, where it's like, okay, there's, even though it's poor and we should win the game, there's a slight bit of honour in the way that you go out if you just hammering at the door and you just can't get it over the line. That's like, you can kind of pass that off as, okay, that's shit. We should have done better there, but you know what? We could be worse. That's pretty rock bottom. Like, I know we're bad at Molyneux, but Jesus Christ, man, that was genuinely one of the poorer performances I've seen from a Villa side for Emery's whole tenure, to be honest with you. It's a bit of a low point, and we have dropped from third, which is very, like, scary because we've been sucked right back into the fight. If we don't win the Europa League, I'm not confident in the way that we're playing at the moment that we're going to get Champions League football. And I think, with the recruitment that we've seen, even like with Champions League football, like on the horizon, like from example last season, the season before wasn't massively convincing until January. Um, I think that could be a bit of a killer blow for our time dancing around at the top. I mean, for Wolves, it's a fantastic result. That's brilliant. Like, I bet they had a fucking great time. Of course they did. But yeah, I don't. I'm almost starting to not want to write them off. It is only their second win of this season, which, like, when we put into context and when we see some of the performances across the relegation force, they are going to go down. Like, they are going to go down. But when you see someone like that, it does make you think. If could it happen? because that would be something really special. Anytime we had a chance on goal, Jose Sarr did really well to stop it. There was the Anana and Matson chances I can think of in particular where Sarr pulled out all the stops to save them, and that's the kind of thing that really changes the course of a game. It's really good goalkeeping work from Sarr. There was some pretty good goalkeeper performances across the weekend, and this was one of them in the end. From a Wolves perspective, the game was managed like expertly well, and part of the credit for that can be given to the back line, and in particular to Mosquera, who I think was the standout of the lot. We were restricted massively to so little chances, and I mean players like Rodgers and Sancho were kept quiet, who have been our better players of recent. And I mean when like Buendia didn't have an impact, Bailey didn't have an impact, so whoever was throwing at them, they stood solid. And for me, Mosquera was the talisman for that defence. So out of all the back line, he's the one that gets the 2 points. It's a man who has not got anywhere near enough recognition on this series, in my opinion, for the performances he's actually put in the games. I mean, I think he's outshone a little bit by Andre, but Joao Gomez, his goal was really well worked. I mean, the way that they put the ball in, laid it off to him, no one picked him up. It's really poor defending, and the finish was fantastic. In off the bar, it's really good work. And I mean, we were just shut down in midfield. We couldn't do. We struggle so much with that Tielemans there. And I mean, people have been saying Barkley needs to be getting some games in the tens for a bit of a progressiveness in the midfield, and I'll be here for it. But with what they had in front of them, Wolves did really well, and I think Gomez in the midfield and Mosquera at the defence were kind of leading that blockade for them in that sense. All right, moving on to something a little bit more cheery. Bournemouth 1, Sunderland 1 was a decent game. To be fair, there's a few chances from either side. It wasn't particularly lopsided in one direction or the other. I'm not sure what I thought about that challenge from Adams, because he did get the ball, but it's his other foot that he did kind of impale Xhaka. So, in my opinion, I think a yellow card was fair, but you've seen those given for Reds. I mean, I can think of the Romero incident where he kind of nudges the ball, but he does take Casemiro's ankle off. And I think Adams on a different day, if he did get a red card for that, I think people would be saying, you know what, you can see that. But in the end, he survived, and Bournemouth went and nicked a point in the end. There were a few chances from either side to make it the win. I could think of Ryan at the end who just about put one wide, but yeah, I don't. I think in terms of the balance of things, I think a 1-1 was fair. Any chance for me to speak positively about Evan Nielsen, I'll absolutely take. He's a player that I very much enjoy watching, and I like seeing him finish with a goal, because it's the kind of the area of his game that people, rightfully so, view as a weakness. And as a striker, you probably would want to be scoring a lot more goals than he is. But as a creative overall player, I do really like him, and his header was, it was perfectly weighted and off the bar. But as I'll say in a second, I don't think he can take most of the credit for that goal, which is why he is in the 1 point position. The cross from Tavernier onto Evan Nilsson's head was like so perfect. There's no other way of. It just was. It was just perfect. There's nothing else I can say to praise it higher than that. It was the one of the most delicious crosses I've seen for a long time. Tavernier's been out for a while, and Bournemouth have been dying for a creative source. I know Ryan's coming and he's looked great, but he's a young lad. He's not going to be doing it consistently every week, and Tavernier can be that guy. Everything flowed through him in that game. Um, with him and Ryan on separate wings, I think they offer. Ryan offers a little bit more of a dynamic, explosive, exciting kind of raw talent, while Tavernier's a bit technically gifted, slightly more so than Ryan, in the sense that he's honed his craft a little bit more. So having those two on opposite wings, I think that's going to be quite a good double pronged wide attack for Bournemouth going forward. Scoring his first points for the season on this leaderboard, Mayenda with a goal. Wasn't his positioning was what made it for him. He was the one that was alert and ready and responded to the saved shot from Petrovic. Should Petrovic be doing better? It's quite a powerful shot. I don't necessarily think he did the wrong thing. Could he have pushed it into a safer space? Maybe. Could he have caught it? I don't really think so. I think the defender should have been a lot more alert to the threat that was there. And for a guy that was so good in the Championship, he hasn't converted that into the Premier League, which does show the gap there. Because I think he was one of their better players last season, from what I remember. I didn't really watch much Championship football last season, so I can't say for sure. But from what I heard, that was the case. But for him to get his second goal of the season, first one since the opening day, I think that'll be a nice little confidence booster for the geezer. Habib Diarra was very much involved in a lot of Sunderland's attacks. His shot obviously was the one that led to Minder's goal. Um, I think since he's come back from his injury, I think he hasn't really been given the ability to shine because that midfield is so much weaker in the base without Xhaka, who I'm going to speak about in a second. But I think him next to Xhaka provides a bit more of a freedom for Diarra to go and kind of do more what he wants. He can roam a bit freer. He can track between both boxes, as opposed to having to have one role as the 10 or as the 6. So you can have Lafay go further forward, yourself in the midfield, cutting about, and then Xhaka marshalling at the back, which I think worked really well in that game. And yeah, I don't necessarily think it was his most outstanding performance, but part of the reason why I've got Xhaka in the 3 points is Sunderland are so much more dangerous going forward because of his ability to sweep up and marshal at the back, but also so much more defensively solid when Xhaka's there. Like his contribution to this squad in this team is just undeniable. And he come back in, started the game, and it's no coincidence that Sunderland looks so good and like so much more improved. Like they hadn't won in three. I think lost three actually. They come into Vitality Stadium, Dean Court, and they just look so much better of an outfit. It's a decent result in the end for them as well, and I think Xhaka mainly is to thank for that. This was one of the first of the bit strange games that happened. Like from what I saw, this was not a 5-2 game in the slightest. For a team of West Ham's nature and reputation to be that defensively shite is pretty concerning. I mean, from the set pieces, they've got big men at the back. They should not be conceding as many as they were. And I think Liverpool, that scoreline is a bit kind to them. That would based on also just the goals scored and then purely the chances outside of the goals. Like that was not a 5-2 game. It wasn't a 5-2 performance, and I think it did flatter Liverpool a bit. And I think it hints at the previous what we've seen in the games beforehand where they performed badly, but well, not badly. They didn't perform badly. They scored five. I mean, come on, where they didn't perform as well as the scoreline suggests. I don't understand Gakpo's inclusion in the squad anymore. I can't justify it. I know he scored. That was massively, massively deflected. I just don't see what he offers that Ungamoa doesn't. Like Ungamoa is so much more exciting of a prospect. He's home. He's like come through there. I guess not technically, but he's a young lad that Liverpool have nurtured for the last few years. He's fast. He's dynamic. He's like techie with the ball, and he gets at a man. And he's kind of everything in that attack that Gakpo isn't. So it makes sense why Liverpool fans want him to start instead of Gakpo. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's a worry they can harbour for another day when the result is worse and doesn't take away from it as much. I'm gonna speak about these two as a unit here because I think the Liverpool defence was pretty resolute. To be fair, um, they gave the Liverpool gave the ball away to West Ham in some pretty dangerous positions quite a lot of the time. And I think the defenders did a really good job of recovering that and saving the team at times. Because if West Ham went to, I mean, there's times when, I mean, the scoreline was all over the gaff for that game. But if there's times that West Ham scored in different moments in the game, that's a completely different outcome. But these two hoovered it up. Obviously, Van Dijk got a goal off a corner. The marking from West Ham was poor. Magassa, like, looked like a fan trying to get Van Dijk's shirt. But yeah, him and Kanate obviously aerial monsters off the set pieces, which really contribute to the result in the end. And I think their rigidness at the back also gets them points in the end. But it has to be Ekatike with 3 points. I mean, his awareness to stay put for the goals where Castellanos was marking him and then left him. I think that is great striker work. That is just exactly what you want to see from your striker. The reading of the game to know, okay, he's going forward. Oh, there's space here now for me. I'm going to wait here. Got his goal, 2 assists as well, and overall it was just like this is the kind of Ekatike performance that I rave about sometimes. The complete forward. Showing 1 goal and 2 assists in that game, and was honestly a serious contender for Player of the Week. Souček is kind of on here because he scored. I don't think that's too bad, to be fair, because I mean West Ham had a lot of chances, and seeing as they lost by 3 goals, the game could have gone very differently. And the fact that Souček was one of the only people that actually converted his shot, I think, warrants him with some kind of merit in this particular list because of Castellanos' responsibility that he has to kind of have for the first goal. Souček gets a nod instead of him, but yeah, in the end, I think the fact that he was able to convert while West Ham struggled at different times, I think that's puts him above the rest. But yeah, Bowen was hoovering up whenever Liverpool spilt the ball. And there was that one weird chance where he kind of just did a 1-2 with Alisson. I don't think he expected to get the ball back there. It just wasn't. If he was just slightly more alert, that's a goal. I think it was Liverpool were 1 or 2 ahead, or just about at the time. And if that goes in, that swings the game completely in a different direction. But I mean, he got the assist in the end for Castellanos' goal. Was making a lot of chances at the times where he could, and I mean, if the team around him could sit the ball on the back of the net a little bit more, we could have been looking at another 5-4, maybe even a draw in the end. This was pretty fucking ridiculous, in my personal opinion, this game. Like, for Burnley and Brentford to put on a 4-3 clinic, like, who in their right mind sees that coming? The first 30 odd minutes from a Burnley perspective were god awful. Like, just the lack of awareness for some of the goals. They were just carved open by the second, and like the laziness to not pick up Damsgaard, to fail to get to the clearance first off the line. That is conducive of a team that doesn't just have the quality to stay in the Premier League. If I was a Burnley fan, I would feel hard done by. I didn't think the offside was offside at the time. I thought it was just like arm, but I've seen more of the semi-automated, and it was his shoulder. So I guess that's kind of fair enough. The handball. I'll say it again. Whether it was handball or not, if it takes you 4, 5, even if it takes you over a minute to make a decision, it is not clear and obvious. VAR is there to change clear and obvious refereeing mistakes. That is what they drilled that home all the time, and that's not what they're doing. They're just not doing that. And I mean, Ashley Barnes in 2026, if you're getting scored on by Ashley Barnes, that's a little bit embarrassing. I'll be so real. I thought he was long retired or playing in New Zealand. I looked him up on FotMob the other day, and I was like, what? He's still there? Yeah, it's crazy, crazy work. I mean, for Brentford to claw a goal back late and beat off all the bullshit, that's real character. That is, like, I mean, Burnley showed fight and desire to get back in, but in the situation where they were in, where Burnley had the ascendancy and they just had a fourth ruled out and the crowd were going, to get a fourth for yourself and to win the game in the end, that is massive. Like that can't be that can't be understated. And Brentford's ability to just hit you and hit you against a run of play, it's like they did it against Newcastle, and they did it in this game as well. They kind of did it against Villa, but I'm fed up of talking about us. I just want to move on from us. So, yeah, that is a really good quality that they have. Fleming's goal just completely left my mind for a second because I was focused on the one that was disallowed, like in the talk bit that I did there when I mentioned it. But he got it back to 3-3 in the end, and it's that aerial kind of that prowess in it. Like, he was always, whenever he leapt for the ball, he was creating issues, and he scored a goal in the end and made it 3-3. And really, really hammered home the comeback and the possibility of a win there for Burnley in the end. So, yeah, he's keeping up he's put a few away in recent weeks. Got one against Chelsea comes to mind, and yeah, if he can keep doing that, then they can keep trying to whittle away at the teams above them and maybe catch themselves back up. More points for Jaden Anthony as well. His finish was really nice. He got it off when he needed to. He was able to make the most of scrappiness when it happened, and overall, I think he was a bit of a threat for Burnley. Not first half really, because no one was, but in that kind of 20-minute period, well, yeah, actually it's like half an hour, weren't it? And when Burnley scored 4 goals, one got disallowed. In that period, he was making it happen. He was the wide man that was kind of trying to create chances. It came through his end, not the other wing. So yeah, he gets 2 points for that from my end. But Burnley's best player in that game, and he's starting to put in some bit of form now, is Hannibal. And I don't like the guy, I'll say it again, but he generaled that comeback. Like that was all that it wasn't. It was like 80% his work. Like him sitting in just behind the attack and connecting the midfield, connecting the attack, playing dangerous, incisive passes. It like his crossing was good as well. It was all just coming together for Hannibal, and it was a really good performance in the end, and one that was like so definitely worthy of 3 points. Thiago was clinical from his chance when he got it. It was a really nice ball through from Damsgaard, and Thiago was there to slot it away. He's been eating those up all season. He has, and I think he'd missed a couple in recent weeks. So to get that one off his chest, get back on the score sheet, I think that could only do him the world of good. Really, I mean, he's had a fantastic season as it is, but to keep adding to his goal tally, keep plugging away for Brentford at that like lower mid table, lower top half of the table kind of positions. That's where is exactly what he needs to do to keep them there. From a creative sense, Otaro was fantastic in that game. I think his crossing was really good. He was getting at the Burnley defence, winning corners, which eventually they scored the first one from. And I think he overall in that game he was just so influential for what Brentford were doing. But he was outshone, unfortunately for him, so he does only get 2 points in that one. Because player of the week for game week 28 comes back into the starting 11, Mikhail Damsgaard. I mean, for a little man to score a header like that, his technique was really good for it. The way he leapt and got the power behind it was great. The box crash for the goal at the end was like the touch and the finish was lovely. And just a nice, neat, cute little pass through for Thiago's goal. Combine that with an all-round great attacking display and a win, and for me, that's player of the week, very well deserved. Given the manner of the goals that were scored and the manner of the Newcastle game, I think this was a little bit of like a slight favour to Newcastle, even the scoreline. Even though Everton won and Everton scored some shithousey goals, Newcastle got some shithousey goals as well. And I think Everton's overall performance was a lot better than Newcastle's. They are struggling at the moment. I don't know what they need to do to change, but putting Voltemada in midfield is not that. I can tell you that for sure. Alanga's stinking up the gaff once again. Ramsey getting a deflected goal, but not a very good performance overall. Wissa not impactful. Murphy came off the bench, got a deflected goal as well, but it's not looking good for Newcastle at the moment. They really need to find something different. But I mean, St James's Park, even in the poor form that Newcastle are in, is always a hard place to go. And Everton did a really good job of it while they were there. They got they did what they needed to. They got a bit fortunate, yes, but they had chances. And I think in the end, in terms of the overall balance of the play, I think it was a deserved win. And by the way, what a fucking save from Pickford. The power on that shot to get up, like the agility to leap to the edge, and to the strength of the hand as well, because that is not a weak shot. To be able to tip that onto the bar, like St James's Park were about to celebrate, they thought that was in. But to get that in, that's really good work from Pickford. That's why he's a class keeper. Again, which is fairly frequent this season, the only one that can really hold his head high, in my personal opinion, is Tonali. He's been plugging away at these points. He's not really had too many like 3 point massive weekends, but I remember especially at the start of the season he was getting a lot of them one, them twos, and pushing himself up the leaderboard. But he's like it's difficult for him to get more points because the rest of the team might help him out. I know Guimaraes isn't available, and I know Joelinton's not fantastic, but he's just carrying that midfield at the moment. Like Ramsey doesn't look great when he's next to him. He has to kind of pull Ramsey through games at times. I think Miley. I don't know if Miley's injured, but I haven't seen him for a little bit. Maybe I've just not been paying attention. Who knows? But yeah, man, in that game, anything positive kind of came through to Tonali, and yeah, he looks to be just like a level above in terms of quality for the rest of that Newcastle team. Beto got that goal in the end. Very good reaction to Pope spilling the ball. You might say that was dodgy in itself, but I think the way that Beto was so much more alert than everyone else, because Pickford spilt one early, well, spilt one after that as well, but no, none of the Newcastle players were alert to it. So for Beto to be that ready and that awake to the ball, to get out quickly to it and put it in the back of the net, because Pope nearly got there as well. Beto did a really good job to accelerate across the box. That can't go unnoticed for me. So that's got a point in the end. And overall, he was just a bit of a pain in the arse for Newcastle up front. I'm going to go Drewsbury all for 2 points. I believe an assist in the end for Barry's pushed over by Hall goal. And overall, man, he's just slots straight back into that midfield and looks great. Him and Garner in the midfield pivot would go crazy if he weren't forced to play right back. I mean, those two look so good together. They're both so composed. They're both so relaxed, man. They just bring a different quality to that midfield, and I think it was Dewsbury that was the slightly better of the two in that game. So, I mean, they just work so well together that a lot of the time it's just close your eyes and pick one at random. For me, slotted into the starting 11, Jared Branthwaite. Really good game from him. He got his goal and he was everywhere defensively, throwing himself up for headers, putting in challenges, putting blocks in. It was a really good performance from the guy. He needs a better shirt number than 32, I think he's got at the moment. He needs like 5 or something like that. I know Michael Keane's got it, but he needs an improvement. Like, he's so much better than 32. Can we be serious here? So, yeah, I mean, start to get more consistent when a game time, build his fitness back up, and he's starting to look like the player that we all saw before that injury. This was a game in which City struggled a little bit. I don't think either. I mean, Leeds had quite a few chances, but they kind of came through many different outlets. Calvert Lewin was back to the Calvert Lewin we all know and love, with him missing a few really like poor chances, you'd say, in the end for Leeds. Um, Overall, City got the win. That is kind of all that matters, I guess, in this stage. Because I mean, in the title race, you're not going to perform to an exceptional level every single weekend. So if you could just get the win, then that's what you need. It will keep you in that race. But yeah, um, not the most convincing fashion in the end. I know Ellen Road's a difficult place to go, but Arsenal went there and duppied them. So as long as they got the win, that's all they really care about. Arlo in that game made some really good saves. I can think of one in particular where headed towards goal. He literally, I think it was Gay here. I don't know. He claws it off the line, and there's one where he pushes it around the post really well as well. And like if it goes in there, that's game over. Then you know how City like to walk all over teams when they go up in that fashion. But Darlow helped kept Leeds in it, and on a different day, Calvert Lewin could have had 2, maybe 3, and we'd be talking about a completely different outlook. But yeah, man, Darlow did his best. I just was let down by the rest of his boys in that one. He is here because he scored, but it was a winning goal, so it does hold a lot more weight. Semenyo got another goal, number 6 for City already, and he's only been there like 2 months. It's crazy, man. He's such a good player, and he brings like another form of clinicality to that City team that they don't have when without Haaland. Almost, he scored a very Haalandish goal. Marmoush didn't have a great game, and you know what? They needed a man to bundle the ball into the back of the net when the time came, and Aït-Nouri fired the ball across, and Semenyo was there. So in the end, it got them the win. So it's a point well deserved. But I think for me, City's best player in that game was Gay. He did really well to weather the storm that Leeds threw at them. Him and Diaz looked pretty good together. I think Gahey was the better of the two though, and kind of proving why he was caught by two of the best teams in England. In that game. I know it is Leeds, but if a team were in the ascendancy like Leeds were, because there was Like Leeds had like a two stages of dominance in that game, in the start of the game, and then in the period after City got on top of the match and scored. That he did really well to ensure that Leeds didn't take anything out from that game. So he gets 2 points in the end for me. Moving on to the Sunday's fixtures, Arsenal 2, Chelsea 1. This was a very necessary result for Arsenal. Everything good I said in the last video about Gyökeres, I'm taking that back because I needed him to have a shot on target to win 15 quid and he didn't give it me. So fuck you, Gyökeres, you're a prick. And Havertz as well, you're a dickhead. You came off the bench and didn't do anything. So I hope you're really proud of yourselves, boys. But either way, man, three set pieces. Nicholas Jover is creaming his pants. But outside of that, man, there was chances here or there, but nothing looked convincing. It was the corners that did it in the end for both teams. Well, it was only one team in the end, really. It was Arsenal that they did it for, because it always is. But yeah, man, like I said with City, it's the result that matters in the end of the day. The result is what's in this like last 10 games of the season. This is crunch time. The result is what's gonna get you your hands on that Premier League title, not good performances at this point. So as long as Arsenal can keep doing this, then they'll be sound as a pound. Gabriel's in for his nuisance factor, is what I'm going to call it. He was just constantly a pain in the box for the set pieces. For his performance levels this season, he hasn't got anywhere near enough points. Like he should be up in the high teens, really. But I think it's the nature of the point scoring system. I think I need to revisit it for next season. I probably will do that. But for now, I've handcuffed myself to this, and I can't change mid-season because that would be disingenuous and bullshit. So yeah, Gabriel can take the point for now, and guess try and just plug away and get some more before the season comes. Timber got the all important goal in the end, so it is 2 points for himself. Um, Nothing really outside of it, to be honest. I don't think it was too much outside of it for either team in that game. But yeah, Timber picks up 2 points to make because he made it 2-1 and made it 3 points in the end for Arsenal. Raya was like really really good in that game. I want to say as well, I love listening to Joe Hart speak about goalkeepers because as a goalkeeper myself, obviously not to the same level. I played Sunday League like growing up, and I always have, always will play in goal. So to hear someone giving really like in-depth analysis on like the mindset of a goalkeeper and what it takes to be a goalkeeper is really refreshing for me to hear. And when Joe Hart speaks about Rye, he does such a good job, and he like elevates Rye's performance because he makes you realise things that as a keeper you kind of just don't like. If you're not a keeper, you don't see it or you don't understand it. Like, I was speaking about even the slightest positional changes and being on your toes and decision making and stuff. You kind of see, okay, this is a guy that is very right at the top of his game, and he was right at the top of the game in that performance in the end. So he gets 3 points. But it's Reece James with 1 point in the end for Chelsea. No one else really offered too much of anything. I was pretty disappointed overall in the Chelsea performance, and especially from Neto. I mean, I've liked Neto a lot more than other people have this season, and for him to get sent off in the way he did was poor. James tried to defuse the situation, but Neto got himself a card for dissent and then went and bundled Martinelli over. So it was a stonewaller. It was going to happen, but yeah, Reece James did his best to lift the 10-man Chelsea squad while he could. I'm gonna say I think I could not disagree more with the people saying that it's a foul on, was it Bruno? No, Cunha. I think that's poor. I think it's really, really pathetic that that is getting given as a foul. I understand holding rules. I really do. Like, I'm a referee myself. I tend to give holding more so than other people do, but that is not holding. He had a couple of fingers on him and he did not impede him. Cunha could have completely carried on and probably scored in the end, but he didn't. He chose to take the penalty, which, by the way, the foul started outside the box, so I don't know what you're doing there. And the fact there was a red card, I do think you have to consider double jeopardy because he's there in the end. Lacroix's a fast geezer. He's not gonna get burnt for pace or anything. He has the potential to block the shot, so I think it's unfair. But either way, it wasn't the best. It wasn't the best performance from Palace. I mean, obviously, when they went down to 10, that's what you expect. Like, that is the reason why they struggled in the end. And United were able to capitalise. They scored the penalty, they got the win, and they were able to pick up from what I thought was a poor refereeing decision. I like Mazraoui in that United team a lot more than either of their fullbacks. Shaw went off injured and Mazraoui slotted right in and looked at home. I mean, they spoke about him when he went to AFCON. They were like, "Oh, we're missing Mazraoui. It's a shame." He hasn't shown much of much this season at times, but no one really did under Amorim. But yeah, man, he came into squad today. Well, not today, in that game, and he looked fairly comfortable. And I would be choosing him over either Dalot or Shaw. I would be the starter of the fullbacks for me. Sesko again with a goal, really nicely worked. Great ball, great header. That's just Sesko heritage. This is what he does. He win them the game in the end. Did he come off the bench? I think so. Off the top of my head, I'm not 100% sure. But either way, he got the winning goal in the end, and that's enough for 2 points, in my opinion. But yeah, it was Bruno as the main man. Creatively excellent as usual. Scored the penalty, which he needed to do. Got them back in the game. Gave them the thrust to get back and have a few more chances, and then lovely, sumptuous ball in for Sesko, which is a goal and assist for Bruno Fernandes, and it's just a classic Bruno performance. He was fantastic in that game, so he does get 3 points. He's getting 1 point. I don't care that he got sent off. That header from the quad was fantastic, and Palace were absorbing the pressure from United, and I think could have gone on to win that game if they didn't get up that red card, which I don't think was fair on the quad. So, in spite of that, people might disagree, say it's a red card, which if you think that, then that's fair enough. I can kind of see it, but in my opinion, I don't think we should be giving that at all. I don't think that should be how it works, and I don't think it was a foul. So that's 1 point for Lacroix in the end. But Dean Henderson, man, he pulled off some really important saves, some really difficult saves as well, and actually kept Palace kind of in the hunt. When it was 1-1, he was keeping the minute. And then obviously United went and scored. There's nothing to do about that. It's a really good, really nicely placed header. So yeah, I mean he did himself proud in that one overall, and yeah, that's the second choice keeper for England if ever I've seen it. They stunk up the gaff again. Deary me. First of all, I'll briefly touch on it. Yeah, I think it was a foul for the first goal. I do. It was a push. Jimenez pushing in the back, wins the header, directly leads to a goal. I just don't know. However, if that goal doesn't get given, Fulham still lose. No, wait, no. Spurs still lose. Yeah, Fulham won. But yeah, if that goal doesn't get given, Spurs still lose that game. I don't. Obviously, I can't say that with 100% certainty. But I can say it with 99% certainty. I mean, look at the way that they play. They look like they don't give a shit. Uh, I I'm starting to get a bit excited about the prospect of Spurs getting relegated. I'll be real. That would make me tune into the Championship a lot next season to see what happens. Because I don't see where this improvement comes from. I don't rate the players they have at the moment. Like, Polinia has dropped off massively since. I mean, when Spurs were in form at the start of the season, I did like him. But he has been poor for so long now. Gallagher, I mean, Spurs fans have turned on him after, what, 3 games? He looked woeful. The defence look like they don't really care. The attackers are just poor. And I'm starting to think it might happen. West Ham have a lot more fight in them, and Forest have the ability to grind out results a lot more than Spurs have. So it's getting really, really nervy now for Tudor's ball. But turning the attention to Fulham now, the reason I say they should that Spurs would have lost anyway is because they had a lot of chances. Fulham did against a mildly competent opposition. I don't think Fulham would have won that game. They could have drawn it, but they missed quite a few chances, and in particular, Smith Rowe did. And the reason why I'm giving Oscar Bob a point is because he facilitated Smith Rowe probably about as much as he physically could, but Smith Rowe could have had a hat trick in that game, and Bob probably could have had a hat trick of assists. It's the first performance from Bob since he joined Fulham where I'm like, yeah, nice one. I did rate the signing. He obviously is new. He's come off the bench a few times, but this is a good showing. This is a good sign, and I think he can build on from this and have a good end to the season. I really like the technique from that Iwobi finish. Another round of points. He's got another few points on the bag on the list, but yeah, like the technique on that finish was just lovely, man. I really really like that. Bit of a deeper roll again, and it's working like a charm. The FM roll conversion has really done a job on in the deep line playmaker on support. This is what we like to see, man. Back in, oh mate, get me back on FM24. I need to stop reminiscing, man. The nostalgia's gonna kill me. I need to focus on Iwobi and how good he was in that game. Once again, Harry Wilson with 3 points. We need to get him in. Like, and I said I don't want to speak about Villa, but I'm going to briefly touch on the fact that he's out of contract in the season. We need to sign him for free. That is Tielemans 2.0, in my opinion. Um, that is great value there. He's older, yes, I understand that. He's not as young as he once was, but that's a cracking player, and we need wide coverage. But in that game, the technique on that finish was really good. The turn on the volley to catch it as sweetly as he did, get it past Vicario in net, really good work. And the 1-2 link up with Iwobi was nice and got them the win in the end. So another goal, another assist, and gets him another 3 points. And rounding off a pretty eventful weekend with Brighton Forest. All the action in the first 20 minutes in terms of goals. Um, Brighton look like when they go through Matoma with these attacks, he's his end product and his ability in front of goal is completely dried up. I don't know what's happened to him, but he's like he. I've noticed now for the last few months at this point, he's struggling in front of goal, and I don't know what really it is. It's a bit confusing to me as to why he's performing so badly. I'll be honest, but yeah. Outside of that, Gomez is starting to really take the reins. I'm gonna go out and say he's the next one in line for a massive move in that Brighton team. It'll be him gone in the summer. I think Belaid will probably go as well because even though he's poor form, there's a player there. But for a Forest, yeah, man, like another performance where you're not 100% sure. Like going forward struggles again, and defensively in this one, for the first goal, they pointed out the good 5 or 6 mistakes, and it's really poignant, man. If I was a Forest fan, I would still be nervy. I would be confused as to why he sacked Dyche and got Pereira in because he doesn't look to be much more of an improvement. And this is a very winnable or very point scoreable game, if that's the correct lingo to use, because of Brighton's up and down shaky form recently. So, yeah, if you're a Forest fan, you're not out of the woods yet. Van Hecker did really well to lead the Brighton defensive in that game. He was the bit of a brick in that. Oh, mate, what am I doing? I got no sleep last night, so I'm just stumbling over my words like a moron at this point. What I'm trying to say is that he was a wall in that back line, throwing blocks in left and right, preventing chances for Forest. And I mean, it took a wonder goal for them to, a wonder strike for them to get one in anyway. So if he had a clean sheet on his record, I think a lot more praise would be upon his name for that game. Welbeck with a lovely little turn and finish to make it 2-1. Got them the points in the end. I don't think he did too much outside of the goal. Took him to double digit figures for the season though, so fair play to the geezer. And yeah, I mean, as a striker, that's the goal. He's a bit more of a decent like on the ball player, but he got the goal in the end. So for me, I think that's good enough, and I think that warrants him enough for 2 points. But it is again back to back videos. He gets 3 points, but Gomez with another fantastic showing and another really nice little strike. I've said it again. He's got a good strike on him. He really, really does. And I think people need to sit up and take notice of that. And yeah, when he goes for a pretty penny in the summer, someone's going to take advantage of that. I mean, I'd happily have him at the Villa. Work that Jesus did for the first goal for Forest, well, the only goal for Forest, can't be ignored. Like the way that he left it for the winger and then made the run down the left, like the overlapping run, and then played the ball into Gibbs White. That was really good work. That's what I'm saying. The kind of player that he is. He's not a necessarily an out and out number 9 because he's an Evan Nilsson type mould, which I have a little soft spot for in strikers. I like when he can do that, and that kind of move and that goal shows how that can be so effective. And it had to be for 2 points. I mean, really nice strike for the goal. Made a difference at the time. Obviously, they didn't go on to win the game, but it kind of is what it is in that sense. I think Gibbs White did all he could in terms of attacking, leading. He was the kind of the real only like spark for Forest, and it's concerning at this point because there's a lot of games where players forward, like I expect, like Hutchinson for the last points I can remember in particular, kind of getting points because they're the only one that showed any modicum of attacking ability, and not necessarily because they had their best game. But that is it for this game week. What a showing from the boys, Jesus Christ. But yeah, these are your point scorers at the top. An interesting week, as we said. Yeah, there's a bit of closing up happening over here. Ekatike and Fernandez doing a bit of work. Bowen's got 24 points now in the top five of point scorers. You've got Thiago moving up. You've got Xhaka hitting 20 points as well, which is pretty massive to be fair. And player like Harry Wilson's recent form has put him on at 17 points, which is crazy work. Man, that's a really good season. And your list of player of the week's getting longer and longer and longer. I might actually move them up a little bit, so a little bit more visible for my sake. But yeah, there we go. I mean, this is the list of points overall, and thank you very much for watching. Quick turnaround this time for videos. I know this is very unlike me, but you know, new year, new me. Have a good one, boys.